Noise11.com, and we welcome today Brian Nichol from the Radiators with a brand spanking new remix of the old Radiology. Welcome, Brian.
G'day, Paul. Good to be here. Yeah.
Your entire life in about 70 or so minutes on one CD. How's that feel?
It's great. You know, like it's a re-release, as you said, but at least it sort of depicts our whole life, as you say. You know. So.
Yeah, and cleaning it up. What was involved to get it to the stage that we've got it? Because we've never heard the Radiators sounding like this.
That's technology today. You know, like the way they pull it apart, and they can. It's incredible how they do it. You know, they can isolate just one track off. It doesn't even have to be like in track form. It can be just like in a overall song form, and they can pull each track off it and change it and alter it. It's I don't know whether it's AI or whatever it's called, you know, but it's freaking amazing.
You would be more closer to each of the individual tracks and the various parts. What were you hearing as differences?
It took me back to when we were actually recording it, you know, and a lot of those things that you were there when you first recorded it sort of got buried a bit in the actual making of the albums. So to me, it was just like back in the studio, sitting there listening to a track all by itself. You know, that was, you know, you hear little things that you never heard before. Yeah.
Did the recordings over the album? So we had Feel the Heat, the first album, and then the subsequent albums after that. Did you feel it actually improved in the studio? Did the band get better as a recording band?
Yeah, look, I always felt that our finished product was never as good as our start product, you know. And I always thought that our albums could have either been better prepared or not so much the mix, but probably in the way that they present them, you know, like the mastering and all that sort of stuff, you know. Because a lot of because in the early days, especially the power of the band didn't cross over onto the actual record a bit. I thought, you know, so that was sort of annoying in a way, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess that was the thing with the Rads. I remember back in my old 2WL days in Wollongong and seeing you guys multiple times at places like Shell Harbour Workers Club. There was a lot more power that came out the speakers on the stage than at the speakers in the lounge room.
Yeah, that's exactly right, what you're saying. And that was my whole point about we couldn't actually capture that on record that we had on stage. You know, I'm not sure whether ever we were overplaying or there was just too much going on and it just couldn't all fit, I think, was the problem, you know. But this album has rectified a lot of that. You know. It sounds powerful to me.
It's 45 years since the first record came out, and had a couple of years when you and Jeff first got together. I mean, let's talk about you and Jeff for a start, being the two founders of the band who are still the Radiators that we know in 2025. You and he have lasted longer than most marriages.
Well, I'm not sure what to say about that.
You're a very good-looking man, Jeff. That's what's keeping this band together.
I'm not saying that. You said that, not me. It's a big surprise to us even today that we've lasted so long, you know, because it's just we started out together and we just, you know, we had a lot of things in common. I suppose we still have those things in common, and that's we're still writing songs together. So that shows you that the marriage is still whole. But so I still love our sport, love our music, and you know, love our chit chats, and I don't know. It's just a thing that just kind of grew, I suppose. You know.
So you say you're still writing music together. Why haven't we had a Radiators album since 2000 then?
Don't know. I've got no answer to that. We've only just started. That's why we're here today. We're in the rehearsal studio now. We recorded and mixed one song. We've got 3 more to do at this stage. So it's just finding the time, because we're on the road all the time, And we probably didn't take enough advantage of COVID when it was there, but we didn't, because we all live separately and spread out a bit. So it was hard to get together even then, But now we sort of think that, this is could be our last hurrah, so we're going for it.
It's interesting with the Radiology album because it sort of cherry picks a little bit of everything from every release from 1980 to 2000, which is a very comfortable 20 years, isn't it? It's a very tight catalogue from beginning to end, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And we did a lot of recording in that time. I think it surprises some people when we say, we've had, like 10 or 12 albums and this and that. And there's a lot of releases that were the general public didn't know a lot about, because back then I suppose there was no sort of social media, so if you didn't get it played on the radio, a lot of people didn't even know it existed.
The track listing for Radiology compared to the set list is pretty much identical. I mean, most of the songs from Radiology are played in the set. I think there's some songs like How Does It Feel, It's Easy, Gravitational Pull, Nancy Can't Dance that do get played. They're not on the album. But for anyone going to a Radiators show, you're pretty much getting the set list in this new remix of Radiology.
That was kind of done on purpose. Like it follows our life. We start in, with Feel the Heat songs and sort of progress through. There's some, you can't fit everything in. That's the main problem, because you're only playing for like an hour and a half or something, It was like Bruce Springsteen, you do 3 hours or something. You do a lot more stuff, and people, you sort of get criticised sometimes for not doing obscure tracks, but we just kind of keep it to the most popular ones that people know and just sort of change it around a little bit here and there, sort of tweak it as we go, just to keep ourselves interested as well.
When Coming Home was released and suddenly you were getting played on the radio, it might have even been, 2SM was probably still big back then. Triple M was just starting to come along in Sydney. Tell me about hearing yourself on the radio for the first time back then. You were suddenly thrown into popdom, weren't you? I mean, even though you're a rock band, you were being played on Top 40 radio. You were, in your 15 minutes of fame in 1980, a pop star.
Yeah, it was pretty wild because all your life you dreamt and hoped that would happen, and when it did, it was a funny thing because you get all your mates to ring up and say, "Oh, I heard you on the radio," or even my mum and dad go, "I saw you on Countdown," So there's a lot going on, and it was pretty crazy days because when that first started, we were doing one of the first years we did 370 gigs in a year, more than there were days. So it was a big blur, But the thing about getting played on the radio and going on Countdown was that you had this national audience, so you could go and play anywhere, and it was great.
You were a controversial Naughty Boys, weren't you, with that other single, Gimme Head and Fessa song?
Oh, I know. Look, I still cringe, like someone comes up and say, "Oh, radios, yeah," and I know what's coming next. Just everyone's got that story they want to remember. That's the one I'm trying to forget, But it was only an accidental release too, because the record company that we recorded them with, we left and went to another record company, and they released those tracks later on. With I guess they owned them because we recorded them when we were under contract with them. So it was an accidental release, and it's probably it's been good for us and not so good. It's been good in the fact that everyone comes along and that's what they like, and that's what they want to hear. And then on the other side of it, you sort of struggle for some credibility sometimes in the industry because of those songs. You know.
But, both those songs
Anyway.
still get played now, don't they? They're still in the set list.
Yeah, I get people, someone will come up to me and say, "Oh, I used to play it on the school bus," like, and that's coming from a Catholic schoolgirl, Great.
Well, how's that the Billy Joel lyric? Those Catholic girls start way too late. There you go. Not in the case of Radiators bus drivers.
Not the Radiators. No, that was their.
Yeah.
That was their form of rebellion.
The first album, Feel the Heat, and the second album, Up for Grabs, pretty much drew crickets south of the New South Wales border. I'd moved from radio on the south coast to Eon FM, that's now Triple M down here, and was surprised that there was no Radiators on the radio until No Tragedy came along. And suddenly you started to pick up airplay at that point, south of the border.
Yeah, it was a struggle. I remember our manager going through trying to find ways of recording different songs, not so much our songs, but other songs as well, trying to find that formula that the radio liked, but we never sort of seemed to get it, like 2SM, they started playing Coming Home, which is cool, and then our next single was going to be I Wish I Was 17 Again, but 2SM wouldn't play it because it had the word tits in it, fair income, so whether it was a great song for radio, I'm not sure, but anyway, that's how it worked out at the time. And I don't think we really nailed the commerciality that we needed to get the songs on the radio. And it still bugs me today, like I wish we had tried a bit harder or maybe wrote different stuff, because there's a lot of Australian bands that have got songs on the radio and they're still going. Like the Church and, I've got Midnight Oil, of course, Angels, Mentals, all of them, they had songs on the radio, but we struggled to have that exposure.
1980, 1981, though, absolutely magic times for live music in Sydney. You must have been on some absolutely sensational lineups that when we look at now, I mean, that's when, Angels, we'd lost AC/DC to overseas by that point, but Cold Chisel would have been doing the pub still. My Sex, Mentals, all of that would have been happening then. You would have been on some great lineups back then.
You'd go to a gig and see Radiators, Midnight Oil and Angels on the same bill. You go to Blacktown, there'd be us and Cold Chisel, and in the 80s it was such a great time of Australian music that you'd almost go 7 days a week. You could find a gig where 3 top bands would be playing. We played with the Angels so many times, and Cold Chisel so many times, Midnight Oil a few times, and Mentals a lot. Didn't matter. Like week to week you could find all those bands playing somewhere.
Very few people have success with achieving a quality version of a Beatles song when they record it. You guys managed to absolutely nail your version of Revolution. What was the secret sauce that you had in your version that gave it a point of difference from the Beatles version?
It was a great song to play. We used, because they had 2 versions of that Revolution, that slow, fuzzy Fuzzbox one and the other one. So we just picked the eyes out of both of them and just came up with our own version. It just sort of clicked. I remember recording it in 301 in Sydney, and even when we did it, you could just tell that it's going to be a really good track. But it worked out well, that one.
Yeah, that was a single only, so kind of need to get Radiology to get it on an album.
See, there's another thing, like we had Hit and Run, Lonely, and all those sort of things. I didn't cross over onto the radio for some reason, so not sure.
Yeah, I think Hit and Run had that pause towards the end. It used to set off the emergency tape in radio. The radio station just thought it was off the air for a few seconds whenever it got to that.
Right. All the technicians running around. I never thought of that.
Yeah, you're scaring all the techs. All right, so Radiology is out there now for the Radiators. We also have a whole stack of dates that you've got coming up, including Victoria. So, check the Radiators website for all of that. You're going to be a busy man in coming months, Mr. Nichol.
Yes, we are. It's been a sort of fairly quiet 6 months prior, but starting to kick off another couple of weeks, heading up to Queensland and doing a regional in New South Wales and then down in Victoria. So looking forward to that.
And of course, Jeff Turner, your co-founding original member with the band. You've had Mark Lucas with you since 1989. So, he's considered to be the new boy in the band, but he's been around for quite some time. But Martin Cillier is very much the new boy in the band and adding a great sound with the guitar to this new lineup.
Yeah, he's the new boy. Like I say, Mark, he's an old boy now. But Martin's been great since he came to the band, because he's he plays a bit like Fess, our original guitar player, and his sound is more like open, like jingly jangly type stuff as well as the hard edge guitar as well. So that's been a big plus for us to have that. It just sort of gives us, like, it's opened the sound of the band up a lot more, rather than sort of like all in your face sort of thing like we have, which we sort of fell into in the 90s a bit. So Martin's great. It's really good.
Yeah, now that Martin is the new Fess, I think you need to change Fess's song to Martin's song. Update the lyric. I don't know how Mandy would feel about that, but maybe on a night she's not there.
No, I'll ask you. Yeah.
All right, Brian.
So anyway,
it's been great to have you here at Noise 11. We're looking forward to 2025, a lot of Radiators activity to come.
Yeah. All right, Paul. Thanks for having us, and good luck with this show.